Queen Makeda ruled the wealthy land of Sheba, but her heart was restless. Despite her great riches and power, she struggled with deep questions about life and purpose that no one in her kingdom could answer. She spent years studying the stars and the laws of the ancients with her wisest teachers. Yet, even with all this knowledge, Makeda felt an empty void that the philosophies of her own land could not fill. One day, a merchant arrived from the north with incredible news. He spoke of a king named Solomon, who possessed a rare wisdom given to him by the Creator to lead his people with perfect justice. The stories of Solomon's wisdom stayed in her mind day and night. Makeda decided that she could not be satisfied with rumors. She had to see this king and his God for herself, no matter the cost. The queen announced her plans to her council, but they warned her of the dangerous thousands of miles of desert ahead. Makeda told them that a heart-seeking God and truth fears no distance or difficulty. She prepared a massive tribute to show the honor of her kingdom. She packed hundreds of camels with gold, rare spices, and precious stones, wanting to meet Solomon as a prepared and respectful queen. Makeda also prepared her mind by writing down her most difficult riddles. She wanted to test Solomon's spirit with questions about justice and the divine to see if his wisdom was truly from a higher power. The logistics were massive, including 700 camels and 1,000 guards. Makeda was not just moving her court, she was leading a caravan of the mind to find the source of true wisdom. As the sun rose on the day of her departure, the capital fell into a heavy silence. Their queen was leaving the safety of her palace to find a word of truth that could change her life forever. The first steps were taken, and the green hills of her home soon vanished into the heat. Ahead lay 1,500 miles of silence and dust as Makeda began her quest to find the great king. For weeks, the desert was their only world, and the luxury of the palace was replaced by relentless heat. Every mile was a battle against the elements, a high price Makeda was willing to pay for the answers she sought. In the silence of the desert nights, Makeda found a different kind of wisdom. Away from the noise of her court, she realized that the vastness of the sky reflected her own soul, infinite, beautiful, and searching for its maker. Water in the desert is more precious than gold, yet Makeda found that her thirst for knowledge was even deeper. Each day of hardship stripped away the queen and revealed the seeker, refining her spirit like gold in a furnace. Nature itself seemed to test her resolve when a great storm rose up, threatening to bury her dreams beneath the dunes. But Makeda sat unmoved within the chaos, refused to be turned back by the wind. When the dust settled, she was the first to rise, and her courage became a compass for her people. They saw that their queen was not a fragile flower, but a cedar of the mountains, unbroken and focused. After months of silence, the news finally came. The scouts had sighted the border towers of the north. The kingdom of Solomon was no longer just a story. It was a reality waiting just beyond the next ridge. She had crossed the waste, and the heat of the desert had burned away everything trivial. She was ready. Every riddle was sharpened, every gift was polished, and her heart was open to whatever truth she might find. They washed away the dust of the desert and prepared for the courts of Israel. This was a final cleansing before the queen restored her glory, showing respect for the great wisdom she hoped to meet. She watched the people of this new land, seeing how they tended their trees and greeted one another. She was looking for the footprints of Solomon's wisdom in the lives of even his smallest subjects. And then there it was, Zion, the city of the great king. It stood as a monument to a wisdom she could only imagine. Makeda took a deep breath. Her journey was over, but her true quest was just beginning. The gates of Zion opened not for an enemy, but for an equal. Jerusalem had heard of the queen's coming, and the city held its breath as the southern son of Sheba finally entered its polished stone streets. Makeda watched the people through the silk curtains of her litter. She saw a nation that was not just wealthy, but orderly. There was a quiet confidence that spoke of a leader who governed with light instead of fear. She stepped onto the stone of Solomon's house, where every pillar was a cedar of Lebanon. Makeda had built palaces of her own, but here, she felt a sense of holy purpose in the very architecture. She was struck by the perfect order of his house. The way his officials stood and the way his servants moved showed no confusion. She realized a king's wisdom is seen most clearly in the peace of his servants. Her heart hammered, like a bird in a cage. This was the moment she had traveled 1,500 miles for. Behind those doors sat the man who claimed to have the answers to the secrets of the universe. The doors opened to a world of light, as if the sun itself had been captured within these walls. The gold was not just for show, it was a reflection of a glory that Makeda could feel in the air. And there he was, Solomon. He did not look like a warrior or a tyrant. He looked like a man at rest. In his eyes, Makeda saw a depth that made the desert she had crossed seem small. The Queen of the South finally met the King of the North. Makeda spoke clearly, telling him she had come to test his famous wisdom. Solomon replied that the wisdom was not his, but a gift from God. He invited her to his table, and she saw the food, the seating of his officials, and the service of his cupbearers. Every detail was a testament to a mind that cared for the smallest things. Makeda was breathless. She told the king that the reports she heard in her own land were true, but she had not believed them until she saw the reality with her own eyes. The time for the great test had finally arrived. Makeda unrolled her scrolls and began to pour out every difficult question she had ever carried, challenging the king to explain the mysteries of the natural and spiritual worlds. She asked him about the cycle of life and the nature of the soul. She wanted to know why things must wither and die, and where the breath of life goes when it leaves a living creature. Solomon did not answer with riddles, but with clarity. He explained how the Creator is the source of all life, and how everything in nature follows a divine rhythm that is both beautiful and intentional. Makeda tested his eyes as well as his mind. She presented him with two crowns that looked identical to the human eye, challenging him to tell the difference between what was genuine and what was merely a clever imitation. He did not rely on his sight alone. He looked for the signs of truth that others missed. Makeda was stunned as he revealed the true gold immediately, proving that he could see through the most convincing deceptions. The questions became more personal. She asked how a queen should handle the anger of her people, and how to create laws that protect the poor just as much as they protect the powerful. Solomon told her that true justice begins with a heart that fears God. He explained that a leader is only a servant of the people, and that real power is used to bring peace rather than to control others. The sun set, and the moon rose, but the questions did not stop. Makeda found that for every riddle she posed, Solomon had an answer that was deeper than she could have ever expected or imagined. At last, Makeda reached her final riddle, the one that asked for the meaning of her own existence. She realized she wasn't just testing a king. She was searching for the light that lived inside of him. Solomon pointed toward the house of God and told her that no man is truly wise on his own. He shared that all the light she saw in Jerusalem was merely a reflection of the Creator who loved them both. Solomon led Makeda toward the sacred temple, the very heart of his kingdom. It was a place built for the Creator, not for a king, and Makeda felt its power even before she entered. She stood between the giant bronze pillars, feeling the weight of thousands of years of worship. Makeda realized that the king's wisdom was simply a path to understand the greatness of his God. She observed the priests moving with a sacred reverence that was unlike anything in her own land. Their peaceful movements and simple white garments showed a deep respect for the divine presence in their lives. Solomon explained the purpose of the great bronze basin. It was not just for washing, but a symbol. He told Makeda that a clean heart and pure intentions are more precious to God than any gold or jewel. As she looked toward the veiled entrance of the most holy place, Makeda felt an incredible presence she had never known. A deep peace settled in her spirit, confirming that a divine power truly resided here. In a profound act of humility, Makeda removed her crown. She told Solomon that the God who chose him was truly great, and that no words could capture the glory she had witnessed in his house. She walked the streets, seeing the peace of the people, the justice in their markets, and the joy in their families. Makeda now understood that Solomon's wisdom blessed every corner of his land. In the palace gardens, Solomon shared his knowledge of every plant and animal. Makeda realized he saw the Creator's hand in even the smallest details of the world, seeing wonder everywhere. Makeda held her gold and her new wisdom, realizing that the knowledge she gained was far more precious than any earthly treasure. Her hunger for gold was gone, replaced by a hunger for truth. That night, under the shining stars of Jerusalem, Makeda knew her life had truly changed. She promised herself that she would carry this powerful light and wisdom back to her own people and her beloved Sheba. Under the vast canopy of the night sky, Solomon shared his maps of the stars. He explained that the same God who established the laws of the earth also calls every star by its name, holding the entire universe in perfect balance. Makeda shared the heavy burden of her own crown and the loneliness of searching for truth alone. In Solomon, She found a mirror to her own soul, a leader who understood that power is meaningless without the wisdom to guide it. Their brilliant minds began to weave together. Makeda did not just listen. She challenged Solomon's ideas and added the unique flavor of her own heritage to his designs, proving that wisdom has no borders and truth belongs to everyone. He taught her the sacred songs of his father, David, showing her that the laws of God were not a burden, but a path to true freedom. As the sun rose, Makeda felt her spirit being reborn in this new light. Knowing she could not stay forever, Makeda became a student and a chronicler. She worked tirelessly to record the proverbs, songs, and laws of Israel, preparing a treasure for Sheba that was more valuable than any chest of gold. She saw that true wisdom expressed itself through joy and beauty. In Solomon's court, the heart and the mind were not enemies. They celebrated the Creator through the power of music and the rhythm of communal life. As a sign of their lasting covenant, Solomon gave her a token of his royal house. It was more than a simple gift. It was a promise that Makeda was now part of the family of faith, no matter how far she traveled. The shadow of departure began to grow as Makeda realized a queen's true place is with her own people. She had found the light, but she knew she could not hide it in Solomon's palace. She had to take the fire home. She left her own footprints in his house, sharing the richness of Sheban culture as freely as he had shared his wisdom. The two kingdoms became one in heart, proving that truth and friendship can bridge any cultural divide. The lessons were over and the questions were finally answered. On their last night, there were no more riddles to solve, only the shared silence of two souls who had found exactly what they were looking for in the presence of God. The time of departure had finally come. Solomon did not merely return her kindness, he overwhelmed it. He gave the queen everything she desired and asked for, adding to it from his own royal bounty until her caravan was filled with his love. He gave her treasures that Sheba had never imagined, precious stones that held the light of the sun and gold refined in the fires of the north. To Makeda, these were beautiful reminders of the man who had opened her eyes to the heavens. Before she left, she sought a blessing from the house of the Lord. She was being sent back not just as a monarch, but as a light bearer. The blue sash was a sign that the God of Israel would walk with the Queen of the South. He gave her his finest horses to carry her messages across the world. Solomon wanted her to have the speed of the wind and the strength of the mountains as she returned to her throne, providing her with a parting gift of protection. In the final moments, words were no longer necessary. They had shared a meeting of minds that few in history would ever know. They were two rulers who had found a home in each other's wisdom, and parting was the price of their discovery. The city that had greeted her with curiosity now bid her farewell with love. Makeda had become a part of their story, a queen who had come seeking riddles and found a soul. Jerusalem would never forget the woman who traveled so far for the truth. He watched until the caravan was nothing more than a golden mist on the horizon. The King of Wisdom had met his match, and though his palace was still filled with gold, he felt the absence of the one mind that truly understood his own. She did not look back with regret, but with resolve. Every step toward the south was a step toward her destiny. Makeda was no longer just a queen. She was a messenger, and the desert was now a bridge to the work she had to do. The teaching began that very night. Makeda did not wait to reach Sheba to share the light she had found. In the middle of the wilderness, she began to build a kingdom of the heart, proving that wisdom grows only when it is given away. She was taking the stars of the north back to the south. The Queen of Sheba was returning home, carrying a treasure that no thief could steal and no time could tarnish. The quest was over and a great legacy was about to begin. After months of travel, the air finally changed. The dry scent of the desert was replaced by the fragrance of frankincense and rain. Makeda stood on the borders of her home, looking at Sheba with eyes that had seen the throne of God. The word spread like wildfire. The queen had returned. But she did not return with the weary face of a traveler. She returned with a light in her eyes that made her people wonder, carrying a secret more valuable than all her gold. On the steps of her own house, she made her first decree. She told her people of the king who lived for truth and the God who was the source of all wisdom. Her palace was no longer just a seat of power. It was a house of prayer. She began a great translation, ensuring the wisdom of the north flowed into the hearts of the south. Makeda opened schools and libraries, making the knowledge she had found the birthright of every child in her kingdom. She changed the face of her land, introducing the order and justice she had seen in Jerusalem. Sheba was being rebuilt from the inside out, reflecting the peace and shalom that Makeda had carried home in her heart. She was planting seeds for the future, Makeda knew her legacy would not be in the gold she left behind, but in the heart of the sun she raised to walk in the light she had traveled so far to find. She often looked toward the north, remembering the king who had changed her world. They were separated by a desert, but they were united by a spirit. She realized that the God of Solomon was now the God of Sheba. She became known as the wisest of queens. Under her rule, Sheba entered a golden age that was not measured by the gold in its treasury, but by the character of its people and the fairness of its laws. The queen who came seeking riddles had become the answer to her people's prayers. Her journey was over, but her legacy was etched into the soul of her nation, a bridge of light between the south and the north. Makeda lived the rest of her days in the shadow of the Almighty. She left behind a world brighter than she found it, proving that those who seek the truth will always find more than they hoped for. Makeda's journey reminds us that the greatest wealth isn't what we hold in our hands, but the wisdom we carry in our hearts. Your own search for truth is just as valuable as hers was. We tell these stories to remember our history. Please subscribe to Living Word Afrotales so you never miss one of these journeys. Makeda wasn't afraid to ask hard questions, and we want to hear yours. What part of her quest for wisdom spoke to you today? Share your thoughts and questions in the comments below. The story continues. Explore more of the wisdom and wonders of our ancestors by clicking on the next video. The path of light in history is always open for you to explore. Thank you for watching. Remember, you are seen, you are loved, and your story is held in the faithful hands of God. God bless you, and we will see you in the next story.